Guys, for today's technique, we're gonna look at the counter to the double understack pass, okay? So this position happens a lot when my opponent gets underneath, maybe he connects his hands, maybe he grabs the collars, he stacks me on my back, okay, I'm not very flexible, so then when he passes, I just let him pass because I don't wanna stay here, all right? So we're gonna talk about this for a little bit. So first of all, prevention, make sure that when I'm in this position, I don't just, like give up, or I don't just like fight back, or like, oh, he's got double unders, I can't retain my guard. Instead, try to use frames. We always talk about frames, okay? And also when I use frames, I also want to use momentum. All right, I want to use a lot of motion, and so it's how I move my body. The first thing I want to do is frame. So now I could push down. You guys that lift weights know that bench press and incline are probably the hardest lifts for the upper body. Decline is actually easier. So mechanically we can push, we have a lot more strength pushing down. So I want to push down like this. So now I've created space. Of course, my opponent pushes me. See how I slide back? And now I can start rocking back and forth like I'm kicking my legs here. I want to open my legs. Even if I'm not flexible, that's fine. I want to point my toes outside. I don't want to be like this. I want to point my toes outside and start kicking like I'm, like, you know, like a toddler. If you guys have kids, you get a toddler, they start getting crazy, right? When you pick them up, they start kicking. That's kind of what I want to mimic here. Now for the purpose of the drill, my opponent is gonna stick to the double unders that I've laid out, okay? And he's gonna take me to one side. So as the drill forms, look, I'm not using inversion, I'm not very flexible. I keep my frames and I get on my toes and then I push back, and he goes the other way. And then I come all the way to my shoulder and then I push back, okay? And I'm just focusing on this drill to create space and to not let him stack me. So several things: the frames, my leg placement, my rocking back and forth. I'm also kicking off the floor, so when he takes me to one side, I don't bring the leg down, he's gonna pass. I keep my knee flared out and then I push off like this. See? If he takes me to the other side, like this. And of course the plan is to slowly start working positions from here. Like I could maybe recover guard, maybe go for some chokes, sneaky chokes, maybe guillotine, right? And we're gonna talk about options coming forward. So we're gonna grab a partner and just do this back and forth, make you feel a little bit more comfortable. Any questions so far? Yes?
Do I want to be framing on the legs at all time, on our own legs?
So it's a good question. In the beginning, yes. I can probably stay here for the majority of time. If this is like to answer your question, if you're a white belt, I would focus on this. Okay? For the rest of you, you can get creative. You can grab the wrist. You can go for those sneaky loop chokes, right? Cross chokes, guillotine if it's no-gi. But for a beginner right now, just focus on the drill. The drill is gonna help you get better. Colored belts, be creative. Start focus on wrist grab, maybe frame in the beginning, maybe start working a loop choke. Some of you like them, right? Maybe go for a guillotine, right? You could even lapel drag sometimes. Sometimes if I'm here and I'm framing and I do the first drill, we come back, go ahead and stack me. We come back, I go here. Sometimes you can lapel drag them as well, get to their back. So to answer your question, if you're a white belt, just focus on frames. Everybody else is a colored belt. Start with frames and then start playing with the different positions. Good question. In this case, he's trying to pass, which is why it's a good drill to focus on guard retention, creating frames, controlling the wrist, attacking the neck, right? So you have different options. It depends on who your opponent is. Is he good at stack passing? Does he got a big neck? Is he hard to choke? Is he easy to choke? Are you tall and lanky with long legs? So you might like those loop chokes and you might have those legs to kind of counter. Are you shorter, stockier? What's your game plan? Do you like the lapel drag? There's a lot of variables. So it's really hard to have an answer for everything. So what I'll say is this: start to look at this position and this system as more of a stylistic approach. Like, what am I gonna do if he double stacks? Okay, and the same thing for no-gi. Heck, the same thing for MMA. You can double stack an opponent in MMA. It's and if the person tries to throw punches from the bottom, he's gonna expose himself and get past. So even at the bottom, you don't really want to throw strikes from there. You want to control the MMA glove, right, because of the sweat. So I'm able to control the glove a little bit better. So it depends on the approach and what you're doing. And so having said that, this option, this drill is for when the opponent's going back and forth. What happens if the opponent's pushing forward, or what's the next step? So my opponent has the double unders. Maybe I control the wrist, maybe I frame, whatever I do, we're already at a point with like, okay, my guard is hard to pass, now what? And so now, like there's a trade-off. If you're shorter like me, it's easier to get the legs into the nook and cranny of your opponent, right? But now I don't have as much leverage as a taller person. Taller person has longer legs, so he can elevate you more. A taller person will have more trouble really going for that leg, right? So it really is going to come down to, again, your body type and also his body type. And so as I'm framing or controlling the wrist this way, I want to make sure I start swinging and bringing my hooks like a butterfly guard. So even if my opponent still has me here, I could start to control here. All right. So now we're going with this scenario. There's a lot of things that could happen. In this scenario, he's still coming forward and approaching. Okay, so when that happens, I can reach for the belt. I can reach for the back. And as he pushes into me, I'm going to butterfly sweep him. Okay, come up. Of course, we can scramble, so it's very important. I like to personally get the underhook, come back on top, and secure the position. Some of you might like to kick the leg and spin around. You could do that too. Right, so as I control the wrist, look, I also make myself tall. I posture. I don't stay crunched like this. He's gonna pass. I have to stay here, especially if he stands like he did. But once I hook here, it's very hard for him to pass. I push and frame. He pushes back into me, and look. So the other option I was talking about, people do this as well. They underhook, kick, and throw the leg back. Okay, so again, it gives you more options from this position. It's really a butterfly hook without an opponent. I'm hooking, extending, reaching, and when he pushes back into me, I'm able to kick and load him off. And before you ask, well, what if they don't push back into you? Tomorrow we'll cover, more of like a stalling technique when they hold on, right? Maybe they stay, they know, okay, I can't pass. This happens a lot in competition. They're up by points, they don't want to give up position, so they hold you in a double underpass. It happens a lot. And so as long as they stay there, they win the match. And sometimes it happens like so much that they get good at it. Like the guy's holding for a whole minute, he might get a stalling call, he still wins because he has to get 3 stalling calls to lose, I believe, right? 3 or 4? 4. 4 to lose, 3 to get points. So jiu-jitsu can be very frustrating for you. So you have to be able to move, rock back and forth, get the hooks, come up, create position, create really good movement. And when you grab and he pushes into you, you butterfly sweep him. So it's pretty simple. So do it one more time. So from the beginning, I'm here, we're doing the drill. Maybe he tries to throw me to one side. Look, we throw the drill back in, and then I make myself tall, bring my hooks. I can go both in, or I can start to swing and hook. Okay? He cannot pass you here, guys. This is very hard. But I can't sweep him unless I extend the legs as he pushes back into me. I sweep. And like I said, you can go underneath your leg. Might be easier if you stand up in posture, swing the leg over, cross face, and go to side control. So there's a lot of options you could do here. Okay? Any questions? Yes, sir.
Is that way of settling where you get under the arm better than the swing and kick your leg around?
That's more of a preference. Some people like to block and they get really, really flexible. Some people like to posture, swim the leg. Remember, when you're on top, the only reason you don't want to stay there with him double unders is he can re-scramble and bring you back and carry you. And he could bump you, and then he recovered. So it's technically a sweep if you control the opponent on the ground for 3 seconds. So if I sweep him, he comes back up, I get an advantage. So you want to have control. So some things you can, this is actually a good question, is as we get into the position, right, and then I sweep, okay? So if I just come up, he's gonna bump me, and then exactly, start recovering. So that's why this is like my crossface. And this under-pummeled underhook is very important because now he can't come up. He certainly can't go that way. So because this is the crossface, it's replaced, it's replaced. That's
Blocking the side of the head.
always, yes. Grab material, and then of course I have the underhook. I can come back, play a different game, but more importantly, I want to get the positional control, right? So that's probably your more basic option. There's a lot of stuff you can do there. You can still go for the submission too, if you want. Sometimes if you're heavy and you sweep the guy, man, you could go back to mount. You have both his arms trapped. He's gonna try to swim underneath, but you can still choke him there and still run the other options. Does that make sense? Okay, any other questions? No? Okay, guys.